Not only is flying the fastest way to get to your destination, but also one of the fastest ways things can go wrong. Because when systems fail or decisions go wrong mid-air, the consequences don't wait. They unfold instantly, with no easy way out. These are moments where precision slipped and control was lost in the worst possible conditions. 1.
Now at 11, troubling new audio recordings of the moments after a small...
On Monday, April 20th, 2026, a small single-engine Cessna 172S Skyhawk SP crashed near the 10,800 block of San Fernando Road in Pacoima, California, during its approach to Whiteman Airport. As the aircraft descended toward landing, it clipped a set of power lines which immediately disrupted its stability and caused it to lose control. The plane then crashed upside down into a parking area close to the roadway, sustaining severe damage on impact. Despite the severity of the crash, the pilot was pulled from the wreckage by nearby bystanders and survived, though he was reported to be in critical condition. The aircraft was linked to a local flight school, and the incident added to a history of previous aviation accidents and near misses in the surrounding area. 2.
Air show in Poland, this fighter pilot made a too steep dive.
At an air show in Poland, the atmosphere is filled with anticipation as a display aircraft climbs and begins a dramatic maneuver. The pilot initiates a steep dive, the kind meant to impress the crowd with precision and control. At first, it looks intentional, part of the performance. The plane descends rapidly, cutting through the air with increasing speed, but the angle is too aggressive and something goes wrong. Instead of pulling out smoothly, the aircraft continues downward and levels out dangerously low. Then it ignites, flames trailing as it surges forward across the ground. What was meant to be a controlled display turns into a fiery, uncontrollable disaster in seconds. Before we go into the next video, once this channel hits 1,000 subscribers, there'll be a $100 Amazon gift card giveaway to mark the milestone. No entry process, it'll just be a random pick. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. With that being said, let's get into the next one. At number 3.
72500, con 62 personas a bordo, se precipitó en el municipio de Viñedo, en Brasil. Todos los ocupantes, 58 pasajeros y 4 tripulantes, perdieron la vida durante el accidente.
An ATR 72-500 is captured mid-flight as something goes wrong. Instead of maintaining a stable path, the aircraft begins to spin in the air, an abnormal motion that immediately signals a loss of control. What should have been a routine flight turns critical within seconds. The rotation continues and there's no sign of recovery. Then it drops. The plane crashes into a residential area in Brazil, slamming directly into a house with devastating force. The impact triggers a fire that quickly spreads, destroying parts of the building. All 62 people on board lose their lives, turning a single failure in the sky into a tragedy that reaches the ground. 4. Arctic Thunder Air Show on July 28, 2010. A U.S. Air Force C-17 Globemaster III moves through the sky in what should have been a controlled demonstration. The massive transport aircraft begins an aggressive right turn, a maneuver that already pushes the limits for something of its size. At first, it looks intentional. Then the warnings begin. The aircraft's stall warning system activates, signaling immediate danger. But the turn continues. The angle tightens, speed drops, and lift begins to disappear. There's no recovery. At such a low altitude, there's no room to correct it. The aircraft stalls and drops from the sky, crashing with devastating force. All 4 crew members on board lose their lives. Investigations later revealed that the warnings were ignored and the maneuver was too aggressive for the conditions. It remains the only fatal crash involving a C-17, a powerful reminder that even the most advanced aircraft cannot overcome critical human error. 5. A Jeju airplane lines up on the runway, engines building power as it prepares for takeoff. Everything looks routine, the kind of moment passengers barely think twice about. The aircraft begins its roll, accelerating steadily down the path, gaining the speed needed to lift off. Then, without warning, something goes wrong. There's no visible struggle, no time to react. In an instant, the entire scene erupts. A sudden explosion consumes the aircraft before it ever leaves the ground. What should have been the beginning of a flight ends right there on the runway, turning a normal takeoff into a catastrophic failure within seconds. 6. The footage captures the Airbus A320 during a demonstration at the Habsheim Air Show, descending low over the runway in what should have been a controlled flyby. The engines hum steadily, and for a moment it feels deliberate, almost too smooth, but the aircraft is flying lower and slower than it should. The tree line ahead closes in, and there's no sign of a strong climb. It continues forward, dangerously close to the ground, until it disappears into the forest. Then impact. The plane tears through the trees and erupts into flames beyond the runway. 3 people lose their lives in seconds. Investigations later pointed to the aircraft being flown too low and too slow, though the captain argued a system failure prevented recovery. Either way, a demonstration meant to showcase precision ended in 1994. A U.S. Air Force Boeing B-52 Stratofortress was carrying out a rehearsal flight at Fairchild Air Force Base in Washington. What should have been a controlled preparation for an air show quickly turns into something far more dangerous. The massive bomber begins a series of aggressive maneuvers, far beyond what its size and design are meant to handle. At first, it still appears like part of the routine, but the aircraft is being pushed closer to its limits with every movement. Then the situation breaks down completely. The angle becomes too steep, speed drops, and the aircraft stalls at low altitude with no room for recovery. Within seconds, it crashes and explodes on impact, killing all 4 crew members on board. Investigations later pointed to reckless maneuvering, ignored warning signs, and a chain of decisions that should have been stopped long before the final flight. 2002, during an aerobatics display at the Sknyliv air show in Ukraine, a Ukrainian Air Force Sukhoi Su-27UB lost control and crashed directly into the crowd area. The aircraft was performing complex maneuvers when it descended too low and was unable to recover in time. It struck the ground at high speed, causing a massive explosion and sending debris across the airfield. The impact killed 77 people and injured 543 others, with many requiring hospitalization. The incident is widely regarded as the deadliest airshow disaster in history. In its aftermath, pilots involved stated that the flight map provided differed significantly from the actual layout of the airfield, which may have contributed to the miscalculation that led to the crash. 9.
What's the guy's name that bought?
Such a nice guy.
Oh, Justin. He just checked in yesterday.
There he is right there.
The video opens on a quiet golf course, calm and completely unaware of what's about to unfold. A man focuses on his swing, the kind of ordinary moment that feels far removed from any danger. Then, out of nowhere, a plane appears, already in distress, sliding in from the distance at ground level. It cuts across the open field with unstoppable momentum, tearing through the calm as it skids across the grass. There's no time to react, no warning for anyone nearby. The aircraft continues its path before crashing further ahead. Somehow, the golfer remains untouched, standing just outside the line of destruction as chaos passes him by. 10.
Regresó y realizó un aterrizaje de emergencia brutal. Rebotó en pista, el tren trasero colapsó, el combustible se derramó y se desató un incendio que envolvió la parte trasera del fuselaje.
A Sukhoi Superjet has already taken off and is climbing normally when it's suddenly struck by lightning. In an instant, the situation changes. The strike disrupts the aircraft's electrical systems, disabling key functions and forcing the autopilot offline. What was a routine flight turns into an emergency. The crew prepares for an urgent return and lines up for landing, but the aircraft is no longer as stable or responsive. As it touches down, it doesn't settle smoothly. It bounces along the runway, each impact placing more stress on the structure. Then the landing gear gives way, collapsing under the force. Fuel spills out, and within moments, a fire ignites. Flames begin to spread rapidly as the aircraft slides forward. Passengers can be seen rushing to escape, moving as quickly as possible while emergency crews respond, battling to contain the growing fire. 11. video begins in a calm, open area. Nothing out of place and no reason to expect danger. It feels quiet, almost uneventful. Then, without warning, a plane drops from the sky at full force. There's no gradual descent, no attempt to recover, just a sudden, violent impact with the ground. The moment it hits, smoke bursts out, trailing behind as the aircraft struggles against its own momentum. But it doesn't stop there. The force of the crash keeps it moving, sliding across the ground in another direction, as if it still has somewhere to go. The damage is already severe, and with smoke building quickly, it's clear the situation is far from over. 12.
Caused one of the engines to explode as well. The plane was already too far into its takeoff sequence, so it had to take off. As it was taking off, this picture was taken.
On July 25, 2000, Air France Flight 4590, a Concorde supersonic jet, departed Paris-Charles de Gaulle Airport on a scheduled flight to New York when disaster struck moments after takeoff. As the aircraft accelerated down the runway, it ran over debris left behind by a preceding aircraft. The impact caused one of the Concorde's tires to burst, sending fragments into the underside of the plane. This triggered a chain reaction of structural damage and fuel leakage, which quickly led to an onboard fire. With the aircraft already airborne but unable to recover, it lost control and crashed shortly after departure. All 109 passengers and crew on board were killed, along with 4 people on the ground, making it one of the most devastating aviation accidents in modern history. 13. In this next video, a plane descends toward the water with a parachute deployed, and at first, everything looks smooth and controlled. The landing appears almost intentional, calm, and well executed, giving the impression that nothing is wrong. But then the situation shifts. The aircraft begins to spin, slowly at first, then uncontrollably as balance is lost. The water offers resistance, but not enough to stabilize it. The rotation becomes violent, placing extreme stress on the structure until the wings give way and break apart. What makes it more shocking is that this wasn't an emergency from the beginning. It was reportedly done as a stunt, and the pilot was later arrested, turning a controlled moment into a reckless and costly failure. 14 and 13, National Airlines Flight 102, a Boeing 747-400 cargo aircraft, lifts off from Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan bound for Dubai. At first, the takeoff appears normal, the massive freighter climbing steadily into the sky, but something unseen is already going wrong inside the cargo hold. Heavy equipment on board has not been properly secured, and as the aircraft gains altitude, the load begins to shift. Gradually at first, then all at once, the cargo rolls toward the rear of the plane. The sudden movement causes structural damage, breaching the pressure bulkhead and disrupting critical flight control systems. Almost immediately, the aircraft pitches upward uncontrollably, entering a deep stall. With the controls compromised and altitude too low to recover, the pilots are unable to regain control. The aircraft descends rapidly and crashes within the airfield perimeter, killing all 7 crew members on board. Investigations later confirmed that improperly secured cargo was the root cause, turning a routine cargo flight into a catastrophic failure moments after takeoff. 15.
Been a problem since the plane can operate on the remaining 2 engines. However, when the left engine detached, it also destroyed the left wing, causing the slats to retract.
On May 25, 1979, American Airlines Flight 191, a McDonnell Douglas DC-10, began its takeoff from Chicago's O'Hare International Airport when disaster struck moments after liftoff. As the aircraft lifted from the runway, its left engine detached from the wing, severing critical hydraulic lines and causing severe structural damage. With control systems compromised, the plane rolled sharply to the left, briefly becoming partially inverted before losing all lift. It crashed into an open field near the airport, breaking apart on impact. All 273 people on board were killed, making it the deadliest aviation accident in United States history. Investigations later revealed that improper maintenance procedures led to the failure of the engine pylon structure, prompting major changes in airline maintenance and safety regulations. These moments are a reminder that aviation runs on precision, timing, and trust in systems that are expected to work every single time. When even one link in that chain fails, the consequences unfold in seconds and leave nothing unchanged. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.